one principle which I always talk about is make these connections without asking for anything in return. That's the principle. Help people without expecting anything in return. That is what genuine connections and networking is all about. And I think that's why it matters.
Hi, welcome to another episode of The Angry Coach. Today, I am extremely delighted to have Coach Palav along with me. Coach Palav, welcome to this show.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be with you. Thank you.
Coach Palav is an executive coach. He works with several very senior leaders in order to help them elevate their executive presence. Coach Palav has been in this space for the last 9 years, along with an almost 18-year-long journey in his corporate job. Coach Palav, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. And let me start by my first question, and this is something I ask everybody. What makes you angry?
That's a very interesting question. So this is going to be funny, but what makes me angry, Vivek, is the fact that leaders do not invest time in networking, in building genuine connections within and outside of work. And why I said this is funny is because for the first 17 years of my career, I didn't do it as well. Right? And when I got to understand the importance of genuine connections, networking, building those relationships, just without even any purpose. And I understood the importance of it. That's what I started helping people with, during my coaching engagements. But I have seen leaders, despite that, some people still have these beliefs and have these some of these attributes which makes them stop from doing it. Right? They don't want to go out and build connections. That's really something that makes me angry. First it was with myself, and now I get angry on leaders when they don't do it. Yeah.
This is a very interesting point, and what you're mentioning is that leaders not making genuine connections with people is something that gets you angry. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what would make these connections important? If I am a leader in an organization, why do I care about building connection with anybody?
Yes. And this is exactly the question that I used to have in mind. Why should I do this? And the first thing that hit me when I had these questions and when I had my own realization is my work should speak for myself.
Right.
Why should I go and connect with people? What's the purpose? And this is when I realized that there need not be any purpose. The connections can be even purposeless. So I always ask this question, who said that there needs to be a purpose? Where is it defined? Right? And that makes people sit back and reflect, who says that there is a purpose behind every connection? I can just go and have a chat. I can just make friends, talk about anything outside of work, right? So why it matters, coming back to your question, is it matters because, as a principle, if you look at life, we are all independent beings, but at the same time, there is a lot of interdependence on whatever that we do. We always need each other's help, come what may, whether it is family, whether it is friends, whether it is neighbors, is office colleagues. We always need help. Either we are helping them or they are helping us in some way or the other.
Correct.
Right? But what I have seen is sometimes people have these very small networks where they have always gone to, or those people have come to them.
Right.
And that's it. And then at some point in time, especially from a professional standpoint, people get stuck in their career. They have these questions, why am I not moving ahead? Why am I not? I'm doing everything right. My work is fantastic. I'm doing all the hard work. I'm meeting all the metrics. Why am I not moving ahead? And this is where that importance starts coming in. They feel they know a lot of people. The question is, do other people who matter, do they know them? Right? Have they created that enough visibility about the hard work that they have done within the organization for themselves, for their teams, right? Are they bringing in those diverse perspectives, right? Which may happen only when you talk to different set of people.
Correct.
Within or outside the organization.
Correct.
And I think that is where that thing gets stuck, where people feel, I'm doing everything, but I'm not moving ahead. This is where the difference starts making, right? When you start going out, talking to people, connect with diverse set of people, it automatically boomerangs back, starts connecting you back, and you find your space within the organization. And that's where I think it matters a lot. I have personally experienced it, especially after moving into my coaching career. When I started doing these connections, I have seen how it has actually helped me in the long run, right? And and one principle which I always talk about is make these connections without asking for anything in return. That's the principle. Help people without expecting anything in return. That is what genuine connections and networking is all about. And I think that's why it matters.
Help people without expecting anything back in return. That's a very key important message as well. Now, a lot of very good points, Palav. I think the first one that I gathered from you is make genuine connections outside your own comfort zone. Correct. The second thing that I captured from you is the bigger your network, the more opportunities start coming your way. Correct. And the third thing that I'm also gathering from you is it also allows you diversity of perspective and allows you to therefore improve yourself as an individual. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And the fourth thing which people miss out is, one is you get that benefit, but the fourth thing which I feel is the crux is you also become a resource for somebody else to help. Right? And just imagine that if you are becoming a resource or a connection which can help somebody else, how genuine that is, and how fruitful or how satisfying that is, that because of you somebody else has been helped. And that is the bottom line. Right? People fail to understand this. They only think it is one way, that I should do connection because something that I will get in return. No, that's not the point.
I think that's a very fair point. So what you're saying is connect with diverse people without any agenda in mind, and that allow yourself to become of help to others so that things improve on their own. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You're bang on.
Correct. And that's a very fair advice. Thank you so much for sharing this, Coach Palav. Now, another thing that I'm curious about is what prevents people from building these networks? What prevents people from just going out and building connections?
Very good question. And this is something that I try to address and I go to the very roots of this. The answer is stuck in the values that we are being brought up with. Values are like those seeds which are planted right at the core of all of us.
Right.
So one specific thing that I've observed is leaders who have been brought up whose values is more of task orientation. Values is more of spending time in their own self. They like to be spending time with their families, close friends, privately. These are the leaders who find it difficult to go out and start making genuine connections. Right? The value system is what prevents them. That's the root of is my assumption is you can say research basis, this 2000 hours of coaching that I have done across these 9 years. That's the root cause, if I have to call it out. Okay. Because values also create a lot of unconscious biases within ourselves. Right? And that's where the question which you asked, why should I connect? I have come till here without doing anything of this sort. Why do I need to then connect?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That awareness of that unconscious bias, when that hits, then people start to make those changes. But it's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. Now, one part about it is if I have an extroverted personality, it's easier for me to connect. I find it easier to talk to people, right? And I can understand that. Now, if somebody is like me and I'm an extremely introvert person, right? I can remain locked up inside my room my entire life and I don't think I will miss anything or anybody else will miss me. And yet I do have to go out and work. I do have to go out, do whatever I do on a daily basis. What advice would you, is life doomed for a person like me, or what advice would you have for a person like me?
Super. That's a great question. One of the things which I may advise for people who would like to spend time on their own is to ask themselves, what would happen if I start talking to people who are different from me? Okay? What would be the benefits of that? That's point number one. The second thing which people like introverts, and even I am an introvert, when you say that, how is it helping me in my career to continue to be the way I am? Right? That's the second question which I would like to ask people. And the third is, how is it helping my organization and the people who I work with? Right? If I continue to be like this throughout my career, right? Because I may, like a lot of introverts, they're quite knowledgeable. Most of them, they have a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of wisdom, they think a lot, they reflect a lot, they are quite self-aware, right? So they gather a lot of knowledge, they are good observers, right? But what's the point in keeping all of this knowledge with only yourself? How can I go out and share this knowledge so that I can help people and they can grow? That's the point which I was making previously. How can I give this? Right? How can I be a giver?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Rather than only just acquiring something. How can I also give back? And there is a very interesting poem on dying empty. Die empty. That's the title of the poem. Okay. I don't know whether you have heard about this, but it says die empty, which kind of ends this that when finally I'm in the grave, what am I taking back? Right? Nothing. Why can't I just give out everything and die empty? That's a beautiful poem which I often reflect back on, and I'll share that. But that's the thought process. That's what my advice would be. Don't die full, die empty.
So you're saying die empty because whatever you have to give, put a conscious effort in giving it out. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And we say that in our Eastern philosophy, right? Give, it will come back in abundance whenever it has to.
I give and it will come back in abundance in full. Yes, that's a fair point. So what I'm hearing from you is if a person is an introvert like me, for example, the first thing is find out something that I am very passionate about sharing with the rest of the world, right?
Yes.
Very sharply identify how do I want to make this world a better place, correct? And
yes.
And that, in a way, immediately elevates me to a position where I want to share. Is that fair?
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely, absolutely. Because also what happens is people who are introverts, they have this feeling that, okay, if I go out and talk and if I go out and build connections, will I come across as somebody who is selfish, or am I building connections only if I
Mm.
want something in return,
Mm.
right? So all you need to do is just reframe. I don't want
Mm.
anything in return. Let me give back without expecting anything
Hmm.
in return.
Right. Right. So identify this one core purpose, and that naturally will nudge you and change the story in your own mind. That's also something that you alluded to, which is versus what people will think. How can I be helpful to them? Becomes a shift
Yes,
in your own mindset.
absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm. And is this the way, Coach Palav, you also help people change their own belief system? I know beliefs and actioning on the change of beliefs is something that is core to you. Tell us a little bit more about some of the beliefs you've seen in people.
Some of them which we just spoke about, right?
Hmm.
Which
Am I
is,
selfish? Will I come across as selfish? Is a belief.
will I will I come across as selfish, or um, you know, I am like this. I don't
I
like to
am
talk to
like this. I don't like to talk to people.
people,
Hmm.
right? What if I am trying to connect with someone and if I am disturbing them, or if they don't like me
Hmm.
connecting with them,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Now, when I listen to these conversations and these statements, the very simple question which I ask is, have you ever tried it? Or when have you tried this?
Hmm.
And the typical answer is, no, I've never tried. But what if this happens? How do you
What
know?
if this happened? Hmm.
Right? It's like give this analogy. It's like Jasprit Bumrah, bowler, saying that should I bowl a Yorker? Will I be hit for a six, or will I get him out? How do you know unless you bowl that?
That's a
Right?
very fair statement. So,
Right.
so beliefs in a way are stories we have built within our own selves without perhaps adequately checking it.
Yes. Yes. You have not tested it. You have
Hmm.
not experimented it. That this is a very non-threatening word. Have you experimented it? You know,
Hmm.
what if you experiment? See what
What if you
happens.
experiment? What will happen in that case? That's a very
Yes.
fair statement. That's a very fair statement. Um, Palav, this has been very helpful. Thank you so much. I'm going to continue this journey a little further with you. You've been a coach,
Sure.
right? I'm very curious to know, how did you end in this career? How did you make this a choice?
Huh. That was a very interesting story.
Hmm.
So this goes back almost 13 years back in 2010, where
Hmm.
I was challenged by one of my super bosses
Hmm.
on my performance. So for the first 10 years of my corporate experience, I always used to be a high performing leader,
Hmm.
right? In the top 10%. But there was this leader who came in and challenged my leadership style and actually downgraded my rating for that particular year. And that was a shock for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
I couldn't understand what happened, right? Fortunately for me, I used to read a lot of books on self-help, on leadership, and one principle which I always followed and have been following all along, and thanks to this um, wonderful book which I read right at the beginning of my career, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People,
Hmm.
which talked about take ownership,
Hmm.
right? Do things which are in your control. Don't focus on things which are out of your control, right? That principle actually helped me, and I started asking myself, what can I do now? What's in my control? Now that my rating has come down, what can I do differently? Right?
Hmm.
And while I was reflecting, I was introspecting, I came across another book called Go Put Your Strengths to Work by Marcus Buckingham.
Hmm.
And that book had some brilliant exercises on identifying what are you really passionate about.
Hmm.
What are you really, what do you do which gives you complete joy, right? Which you feel you are in a flow.
Right.
And that is when I identified, when I'm having these one-on-one conversations, developmental conversations, feedbacks or coaching or giving, talking something motivating to my team members, because I handle large teams. That came out as a very, very clear strength. Right?
Okay.
Have these one-on. But at that point in time, I didn't know that coaching as a profession exists, which was 13 years back.
Okay.
But, after 4 or 5 years, I was given an opportunity to be coached by someone. Right?
Okay.
So I was being coached. When I saw myself getting coached, that was a light bulb moment, saying, this is exactly what it is. This is what I was looking for.
Okay.
I can do this myself. This is joining all the dots. And that's when I connected, got myself trained as a coach, and then the rest is history.
Amazing, amazing. One of the things I'm curious about is what advice would you have for anybody who is, wants to be a coach but has not taken the full time plunge? You were in a job, you were in a very good job, but you took a full time plunge here. What advice would you have for anybody who is thinking about starting coaching as a career, or who's on the fence and thinking about, okay, should I do this full time? Should I continue remaining in my job? What advice would you have?
Wonderful question. My first advice would be experience coaching themselves.
Experience coaching themselves.
Yes. Hire a coach for yourself. Hire a coach who you trust. Do your research. Get yourself coached. Feel that experience yourself. Because once you feel theory, people can explain. I mean, I can explain, you can explain saying that this is how coaching is, this is how it works, this is how it helps. But the real thing is experience coaching at least for 6 months, 3 months to 6 months. That will give you enough and more knowledge about how then you can become a coach, or whether you would like to be one. Right? Especially if somebody values helping people.
Okay.
If somebody values developing people, right? If that becomes their strength at some point in time, this is a go-to career for those people. People who are in. So I know a lot of HR people already get into this, but even people who are in operations, people who are in IT, any industry, but if they're handling people, if they feel that they can develop people, they like talking to people, this is something that they should first experience, and then probably then they can take that plunge.
Right. So experience it yourself first. And once you've experienced it and once you feel it's the right choice for you, it's only then that you want to get inside it. Is that fair?
Absolutely, absolutely. That would be my advice.
Excellent. Also, if I were to pick up our earlier thread, Coach Palav, um, for a person who is wanting to network, for a person who wants to build more diverse connections, what would some of your advice elements be for this person?
You made a very interesting point, Vivek. Identify what your strengths are. Right? If somebody wants to really go out and start building genuine connections, identify what your strengths are, what your passion is, what knowledge, what skills do you already have, which you believe you can actually share it with others, with which you can add value to someone. Right? If once you have been able to identify that, start sharing it. And now with social media, with LinkedIn, with WhatsApp, you can actually start sharing what you are doing. Right? Whether it is sharing your articles, whether writing blogs, whether talking to someone and helping them out. I can even go to a further extent. A lot of people already know very good people around their own network. They are already well connected. Help somebody else by connecting to someone else. Right? Even that can be a great way to help people. You may not be able to directly help someone. See if you can connect. Identify opportunities wherever you feel you can be of help to someone. Right? In any way. In any way. I think once you are able to start doing that genuinely, as we said, without expecting anything in return, you'll automatically see people will start seeing, people will want to build connections.
People will start wanting to build connections with you. That is such a fair point.
Absolutely.
That's such a fair point. Coach Palav, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for being with us today. Before we leave, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
I think, first of all, thank you for inviting me, I think, and allowing me to share my thoughts, my perspectives. Some very, very interesting questions that you asked, Vivek. Since we were talking about the topic of networking, and that's also very close to my heart, there is this beautiful book which I would like to recommend people if they like to read it. It's by Adam Grant, called Give and Take. There are some genuine stories of world leaders, how they have been genuine givers all their life, right? With exactly the same principle, right? And see how everything starts getting connected. I got to know about this book just a year back.
Okay.
And this principle I learned earlier, so it's exactly the same thing which he mentions in this book, which is give without expecting anything in return. But the kind of stories that this book has will start making you think, okay, what can I do from my side now? Right? How can I add value to this world? So I think definitely a must-read book for people who still have those beliefs that why should they network or how should they network. This is the go-to book for them. That would be my one final parting thought. That's it. Just be a giver.
Give and Take by Adam Grant. I think it's a fantastic book. I have it on my to-dos. And thank you once again for reinforcing this particular belief. Coach Palav, for your time and your thoughts. Thank you so much today.
Thank you, Vivek. Wonderful having this conversation with you, and wonderful to connect with you once again. Thank you so much.